All right, so I want to go over some tools and techniques and tips that I found to be um, really incredibly important since I switched over to a plant-based diet. And the first one is a spice grinder. Now I'm showing you Amazon products. I'm not telling you you need to buy Amazon. You buy it wherever you want. But if these are good pictures to illustrate what it is I'm trying to talk about. And in this case, what I want you to imagine is that I have a spice jar full of cumin, and I go through cumin like crazy. And so what I like to do is I like to buy cumin seed in bulk. So I have, like a half a pound of cumin seed just sitting around. And when I start to run low in my spice jar, what I'll do is I'll take some of that cumin seed and I'll lay it in a single layer on the bottom of the cast iron pan and heat it up, not to where it browns or anything, just so that it dehydrates and it starts to become very fragrant. And when that happens, then I allow it to cool. And once it comes to room temperature, I grind that up, and that makes just the most beautiful, fresh ground cumin that I use to fill my spice jar. And it just illustrates the benefit of having a nice source of bulk spices. In my case, I like to go to Winco. They have the most amazing bulk section for spices and other foods that I have never seen a bulk section as good as Winco's. So if you have availability to Winco, by all means, check it out. But even if you have to buy the bulk spices elsewhere, when you can get it in seed form, it does. The grinder makes the best version of spices. And so I use this all the time. I use it for cumin. I use it pepper. I grind flax in it. I do ground chia seed. There's all kinds of things that I use this for. Allspice. Anyway, this is a really important thing. We use it a lot. The second thing I wanted to point out was the spice rack. Now, this shows a spice rack on the counter. We actually bought three of these and mounted them to the wall, one over the top of one above the other. And what's great is it comes with uniform spice jars, pre-printed labels, and I have enough spice spaces with three of these racks that I end up having all my spices alphabetized from top to bottom, A to Z. And when I go to do a recipe, the first thing I do is what I used to hate, which is to collect all the spices. I used to have them, all just jumbled around in their original, the retail jars, and sometimes the spices were 6 months old. They lost all their flavor. And I'm sitting here having to pretty much empty the cabinet to find everything I need. And I just hated that process. With the rack on the wall, it's the best part of cooking. You just look at the additions of spices in the recipe, and if there's two additions, you take out two bowls. Or if there's one addition, you take out one, and you just pull all the spices that you need right out of the rack. Again, they're all alphabetized, easy to find. You pre-measure them into the same bowl. You put them all back, and then when the recipe calls for it, you just add the bowl full of spices, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. If there was one thing that I've done since I went plant-based that had the most impact on my ability to maintain this lifestyle, that right there, that spice rack is a number one. I would never have been able to cook as much as I do if I didn't have that worked out. And you should know that when you are plant-based, you're not relying on the fat and the sugar and the salt um, to satisfy you. So you really do lean on spices, which is good because spices have all the antioxidants and phytonutrients and everything that come with them. So it's just the best of all worlds. And the spice rack is absolutely critical in that. The next thing I wanted to show you was the blender. Now, I don't care if you use a Ninja or a Vitamix. We have a Vitamix, but you need a really powerful blender. The old style blenders just don't cut it. You got to have something that really. Now, we do have a Cuisinart food processor, and we use it from time to time when you're having to do a bunch of uniform slices for presentation or something like that of whatever. But when it comes to, this is the workhorse. This is what we use almost, if not every day, almost every day. And the wonderful thing about the blender, well, at least the Vitamix, is that it's the easiest thing in the world to clean. So once you're done, of course, getting everything out of it, you got to have a rubber spatula, and that's a little bit of a pain. But cleaning is a dream. You just basically blend up soap water and rinse it, and it's clean. It's really, really easy, great, and a really important tool. And then next, I wanted to point out the Instant Pot. Um, the Instant Pot is really important for cooking um, whole grains, your rice, your quinoa, that sort of thing, as well as beans, your legumes. These are both very important sources of protein. And I will give you one other tip with respect to beans. What we do is we have a freezer that where we store food, um, and we have three cookie sheets, and we have silicone linings like you would use like a parchment paper if you're going to bake. Well, they have this thing they call Silpat sheets. You can get them on Amazon also. We put those linings into the three cookie sheets, and then we soak the beans overnight, and then we cook them in the instant pot. It's relatively quickly, and then you drain the water off the beans, and then you spread the beans on these three trays on the silicone sheets, and you let them cool a little bit, and then you stick them in the freezer, let them freeze up, and then when they're all frozen, you take them out of the freezer, and with the silicone, you can easily break them loose. They're like frozen marbles, if you will. And I have a measuring cup, and a half measuring cup, and I fill them both, and I take those two measures and I put them into a sandwich bag. That's the equivalent of one can of beans, without the extra salt, without the leaching of the BPA lining from the can. It is just regular beans, all beans, and in its purest form. And it's cheaper that way. It's less expensive. And of course, I cooked it. I knew exactly when it was prepared. It's all done. And what we'll do is we'll take that one sandwich bag that put the cup and a half of beans in, that is equivalent to a can of beans. And so I'll take that and I'll roll it up and I'll put it into a gallon bag along with all the other um, sandwich bags full of their can equivalent of beans. And you put them all into a gallon bag, and then you throw that back in the freezer. And I'll have a gallon bag of chickpeas, a gallon bag of kidney beans, a gallon bag of black beans, a gallon bag of pinto beans, and so I'll have all the different types of beans that I like to use. They're all sitting there and ready. So I get a recipe that calls for a can of beans. I just reach in, grab the sandwich bag that I need, and I'm off to the races. It is really a great way to go. I recommend it highly. And then the last thing I want to share with you is this is called the Foodie Grill. And air fryers, I'm sure you've probably heard of them or you've seen them or you have one. Air fryers are great. But the Foodie Grill is unique in that it has multiple functions, and it's really great for grilling vegetables. So grilled onions and bell peppers, or we do this great stuffed zucchini dish, or potato boats or all kinds of different things. And this is really great. In fact, we had this in this particular one. You see how it's relatively square, and we gave that to my sister, and I bought one because we have more. I needed a little bit more room, so I got a larger one that is wider than this, so it's more rectangular than square. But this is a really great tool. So those are just the probably the most impactful tools and techniques that I've come to learn over the last 2 years. I'm just hoping to save you that learning process. I would recommend that you do all of those things regardless, even if you don't pursue a plant-based lifestyle. Um, I think all of these are incredibly important for anybody who wants to eat less processed food, do more of their own cooking, and eat more plants in general. Again, there's nothing evil about meat. I just prefer be plant-based entirely. But if we turn our the American diet back the way it's supposed to be, where meat is the accompaniment, not the primary feature of the meal, then you'll be needing to do some more cooking. And so this will nothing you spend here will be lost if you're doing your own cooking. So with that, that's about all I wanted to share with you, and I wish you the best. If you have any questions, pass them my way. I'm happy to deal with it.